The topic of our today's conversation is not the simplest or the most straightforward. There are many misconceptions and misunderstandings surrounding it, so today we will try to figure it out together. My name is Nick, this is my art channel, and this episode is dedicated to the dead layer. Before we get into the topic of our conversation, I will prepare everything I need and say a few words about my plan for today's work. I will create the dead layer of this master copy using the Grisaille technique. Therefore, I have prepared two paints, titanium white and lamp black, and added just a touch of yellow ochre to the titanium white to warm up the shade slightly. And thanks to this, my work will acquire a greenish-bluish tint in the future, due to the fact that lamp black, when interacting with white, acquires a bluish tint, and thanks to the yellow it becomes slightly greenish. So I mixed several shades of color. Note that there are only 3 of them. This may seem strange to you, since I said that I would be working in the Grisaille technique, and usually a more extensive tonal scale is used for this. The thing is, I will be applying the dead layer very selectively, only on open areas of skin and only in areas of light and halftones. I will explain why a little later. First of all, let me point out that a dead layer is not necessarily Grisaille. I emphasized this because many people mistakenly equate these two concepts. However, this is not the case. Dead layer can be done in Grisaille technique. Of course, yes, for example, as in this video. But this is not necessary. All artists painted dead layers in very different ways. For example, Karel van Mander, in his book published in 1604, describing the technique of Jan van Eyck, writes that Van Eyck's dead colors were more realistic than the colors in the finished works of other masters. And from this we can conclude that the dead layer could be painted quite colorfully. In fact, Van Mander was the first to use the term dead colors. So, the dead layer referred to cool, light, low-intensity tones which were brought to life by subsequent transparent color glazes. In other words, it was a kind of solid, reliable foundation on top of which light corrective layers were applied. The inexorable logic of multi-layer painting implies strict following of the principle of alternating transparent warm layers and dense cool ones. That is, on top of a transparent underpainting of earth colors, a dense dead layer is applied using white in areas of light and halftones. The dead layer served several purposes. First of all, at this stage the question of the tonal development of the painting was finally decided. Well, this is obvious, and I am sure that everyone understands this perfectly well. Secondly, the dead layer made it possible to save expensive colored pigments by replacing them with cheap lead white. Thirdly, the dead layer was justified in the presence of dark grounds, characteristic of the Italian and Spanish manner of painting, when the light areas had to be prepared, because oil paint is semi-transparent and it's simply inconvenient to paint light areas directly on a dark ground or a dark imprimatur. In this case, the dead layer acts as a kind of insulation. And finally, the dead layer helps to create cool shades in halftones. at the places where the form turns, which is very important for creating the illusion of volume. The fact is that color temperature is a very powerful tool for realistic volume representation. The masters of the past understood that the contrast between cool and warm is perceived by the brain as a change in planes, that is, volume can be sculpted by alternating temperatures. In classical painting, it's traditional that shadows should be warm, halftones should be the coolest, and light areas should be slightly warmer than halftones. Of course, it's clear that everything still depends on the light source and its temperature, but in general, this generalized rule applies. So the dead layer can significantly help in this sculpting of volume. Nowadays, there is often a misinterpretation of the dead layer. You have probably noticed that there is currently a revival of classical painting, and many contemporary artists are turning to the techniques of the old masters. However, what is positioned as a method of the old masters is not always what it seems. I often see artists applying Grisaille over a warm brown underpainting, completely covering the entire surface of the canvas and completely obscuring the previous layer. This raises a logical question. What for? The brown underpainting was done, if it's going to be completely painted over. It simply makes no sense. In painting, everything must be justified by the goal. The essence of multi-layered painting lies in the interaction of the layers with each other, in their transparency through each other where it's necessary. The ground, warm imprimatur and brown underpainting should shine in the shadows. This will give illusion of depth and volume. That's why you see that I apply the dead layer selectively, without touching the shadow areas. This way, the rule of temperature relationships that I mentioned earlier is followed. My shadows will be warm and deep, with brown underpainting shining through, subsequently glazed with transparent warm paints. The edges of the form will be the coolest. There I will leave areas of visible dead layer. The light areas will be glazed with transparent warm paints. This will ensure that the principle of warm shadows, cool transitions and medium temperature lights is preserved. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize that the dead layer is not present in all paintings, and it shouldn't be used as a universal method of copying. We must first of all refer to the original and try to understand what is happening in the painting, what layers are present there and how they interact with each other. Only the original should dictate to us the method that should be chosen when copying each individual work. And most importantly, we must remember that in classical painting there is nothing accidental. Every action, every stage serves to solve specific artistic tasks. There are no abstractions in technique. Technology must serve the artistic concept completely. Therefore, while working, we must always think and understand why we are doing this or that action, what this layer serves, how it will interact with the next ones. Reflection and analysis are the main strengths of a good master. That's my idea, I think so. Anyway, I really hope this video was helpful to you. Maybe you disagree with something, maybe you think I'm wrong about something. In this case, as usual, welcome to the comments. I am always happy to listen to the opinions of my colleagues because, as we know, truth is born of debate. All the best, my friends. Bye.